Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. The Abbott family has survived more betrayals, boardroom wars, broken promises, and painful secrets than almost anyone in Genoa City. But nothing could prepare Jack Abbott for the letter that would suddenly force him to question everything he believed about Jabot, his family, and the legacy his father left behind. For weeks, Jack had been trying to keep Jabot steady, while tension inside the Abbott family continued to grow. Kyle had become increasingly frustrated with the decisions being made around him. Ashley had started asking uncomfortable questions about old company records, and Billy's latest obsession with Abbott history had left Jack worried that another family battle was about to explode. Jack kept insisting that Jabot needed stability, not another emotional war over the past. But deep down, he knew there were questions that had never truly been answered. John Abbott built Jabot to represent more than money. To Jack, it was the heart of the family, the place where John's values, sacrifices, and dreams still lived. That was why Jack had become determined to protect the company from anyone who might use it as a weapon, even if that person carried the Abbott name. His decision seemed final. He had privately told Diane that he was prepared to make a major restructuring move that would reduce family conflict and place Jabot under stronger corporate protections. Kyle would be given a smaller role until Jack was convinced he could separate his personal emotions from business. Billy would be kept away from the company entirely while his attention remained fixed on Chancellor. Ashley would still have influence, but Jack intended to retain final control. Diane understood why he felt he had no choice. "You're trying to save Jabot from becoming another battlefield," she said quietly as they stood in the Abbott living room after a long day. Jack nodded, tired but resolute. "My father would never forgive me if I let this company destroy the family. I won't let that happen." What Jack did not know was that, upstairs in an old locked desk that had not been opened in years, something was waiting that would make those words impossible to forget. Earlier that afternoon, Traci had been searching through old Abbott family documents for material connected to John Abbott's personal history. She had found tax records, handwritten notes, old company correspondence, and photographs that brought back memories of a time when the family seemed simpler. Then she discovered a thin cream-colored envelope tucked beneath a stack of legal papers. The envelope had yellowed with age, but the handwriting across the front was unmistakable. For Jack, when the future of Jabot is in doubt. Traci's heart nearly stopped. She stared at the words for several seconds before carefully carrying the envelope downstairs. Jack was still speaking with Diane when Traci entered the room, her expression serious enough to make both of them fall silent. "Jack," she said, holding out the envelope, "I think you need to see this." Jack frowned as soon as he recognized the handwriting. "That's Dad's." Traci nodded. "I found it upstairs. It was hidden with some of his private papers." Diane stepped closer, but Jack barely noticed her. His eyes stayed fixed on the envelope. Suddenly, he was not the powerful head of Jabot, or the man who had survived decades of family drama. He was simply John Abbott's son again. Jack carefully opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. The first line immediately shook him. "Jack, if you are reading this, then I fear the company I built may once again be dividing the people I love most." Jack stopped reading. Traci covered her mouth while Diane watched him closely. "Keep going," Traci whispered. Jack swallowed and continued. John's words spoke about how Jabot had always been meant to unite the Abbotts, not give one person control over everyone else. He admitted that during the most difficult years of his life, he had made choices designed to keep the company alive, but he had also made one private decision that he had never explained to the family. Jack's expression changed as he reached the middle of the letter. "What is it?" Diane asked. Jack did not answer. He read the same sentence again, then again, almost as if his mind refused to accept what was written. Traci moved beside him. Jack finally looked up, stunned. "Dad says there was an agreement." "What kind of agreement?" Traci asked. Jack looked back at the letter. According to John, years earlier, he had signed a private document establishing that if Jabot ever faced a serious internal leadership crisis, control of the company was not supposed to remain entirely with Jack or any single Abbott child. Instead, John had intended for the Abbott siblings to share equal authority over major decisions involving ownership, restructuring, or the sale of Jabot. Even more shocking, the letter stated that John had placed a sealed copy of this agreement with a longtime attorney who had promised to release it only if the family became divided over the company. Jack slowly lowered the letter. Diane's face tightened. "Are you saying your father created some kind of family control agreement?" Jack nodded, but he looked deeply unsettled. "If this is legally valid, then the restructuring I planned may not even be possible without Ashley, Traci, and Billy signing off." Traci stared at him. Billy too. Jack gave a bitter laugh of disbelief. Apparently Dad wanted all of us involved. That single revelation changed the atmosphere in the room. Billy had been the last person Jack wanted anywhere near Jabot, while Billy was consumed by his fight over Chancellor. Jack loved his brother, but he feared that Billy's need to prove himself had become dangerous. Giving Billy a voice in Jabot's future could create exactly the chaos Jack was trying to prevent. Yet the words in John's letter were clear. No Abbott child should ever be made to feel that the family company belongs more to one sibling than another. Jack shut his eyes. That sentence hit him harder than anything else. Throughout his life, Jack had always believed he was protecting John's legacy, but now he had to confront an uncomfortable possibility. Perhaps he had confused protecting Jabot with controlling it. Traci gently touched his arm. "Dad knew us. He knew how easily this company could become personal." Jack's voice became defensive. He also knew that sometimes someone has to make the hard decisions. "Yes," Traci said, "but maybe he didn't want one person making all of them." Diane watched the siblings carefully. She knew the letter threatened Jack's plans, but she also understood why it affected him so deeply. Jack's relationship with his father had shaped nearly every major decision of his adult life. John's approval, even years after his death, still mattered to him. Jack finally folded the letter and said, "Before we tell anyone, I want to know if this document exists." But secrets rarely stay hidden for long in the Abbott family. Ashley arrived at the house that evening after Traci sent her a vague message saying they needed to talk. Ashley immediately sensed tension when she entered the room. "What happened?" she asked. Jack looked at Traci, then reluctantly handed Ashley the letter. Ashley read it in silence. At first, she seemed confused, but as she reached the section about shared authority, her entire expression changed. "Well," she said slowly, "this changes everything." Jack bristled. "We don't even know if the agreement exists." Ashley looked at him sharply. "But you were ready to restructure Jabot without telling us everything." "I was trying to protect the company." "From whom? Your own family?" Jack stood. "From another Abbott war." Ashley held up the letter. "Dad apparently thought the best way to prevent that was to make sure none of us could push the others aside." Diane tried to calm the situation, but Ashley's attention remained on Jack. There had always been complicated feelings between Jack and Ashley when it came to Jabot. They loved one another fiercely, but they were also proud, intelligent, competitive people who had very different ideas about what their father's company needed. The letter suddenly gave Ashley something she had not expected, proof that John may have wanted her voice to carry equal weight. Before Jack could respond, the front door opened again. Billy walked in. "Why do I get the feeling I wasn't supposed to know there was a family meeting?" he said. Jack's face hardened. "Billy, not now." Billy smiled humorlessly. "That usually means definitely now." Ashley looked at Jack, then at Billy. "He has a right to know." Jack shot her a warning look. "Ashley." But it was too late. She handed Billy the letter. Billy's casual expression disappeared almost immediately. He read the first page, then stared at Jack. "You knew about this?" "I found out less than an hour ago." Billy continued reading. When he reached the line naming all of John's children, his eyes became emotional. "He included me." Jack's expression softened for a moment. Billy had spent much of his life feeling like the Abbott who never quite measured up. He had made reckless decisions, damaged relationships, lost companies, and repeatedly fought to prove that he deserved the family name. John's letter did not erase any of that, but it made one thing very clear. John had never intended Billy to be excluded from Jabot's future. Billy looked down at the paper and said quietly, "Dad wanted me to have a voice." Jack responded carefully. That doesn't mean he would support what you're doing right now. Billy's sadness immediately turned to anger. There it is. You can't help yourself, can you? I'm being realistic. No, Jack. You're deciding what Dad would think because you've always believed you understand his legacy better than the rest of us. Traci stepped between them. This is exactly what Dad was afraid of. The room fell silent. She was right. The letter had been discovered only minutes earlier, and already it was dividing them. Jack looked down at John's handwriting and suddenly seemed exhausted. We need the attorney's copy, he said. Until we find that, this is only a letter. Ashley agreed, though her expression suggested she already believed it was authentic. Billy wanted to call the attorney immediately, but the name referenced in the letter belonged to a lawyer who had retired years earlier. After several calls and a search through old records, Traci found the name of the firm that had taken over his files. The following morning, Jack, Ashley, Billy, and Traci gathered at Jabot. Diane joined Jack, while Kyle arrived after hearing that something serious was happening. Kyle immediately became suspicious when he saw Billy at the table. What is he doing here? Billy smiled. Apparently, Grandpa thought I belonged here more than some people realize. Jack gave Billy a look and placed the letter on the table. Kyle read it quickly, then stared at his father. Does this mean you're changing your decision? That was the question everyone wanted answered. Jack had planned to reduce Kyle's authority and lock Jabot into a structure he believed would protect the company from family instability. Now John's letter forced him to reconsider. Before Jack could reply, an attorney from the old firm arrived carrying a sealed file. Mr. Abbott, she said, we located the document referenced in your father's correspondence. Everyone froze. The attorney placed the file on the table and explained that the document had been kept under instructions from John Abbott himself. The agreement had never been triggered because the specific conditions John described had not existed until now. Jack opened the file. Inside was a notarized agreement bearing John Abbott's signature. Ashley leaned forward. Billy stopped breathing for a second. Kyle looked confused. Traci's eyes filled with tears. The document confirmed the central claims from the letter, but there was another section John had not described in detail. Jack began reading aloud. If the Abbott family could not reach agreement during a leadership crisis, a deciding vote would temporarily pass to a person John identified as the guardian of family continuity. Kyle interrupted. Who is that? Jack continued reading, then suddenly stopped. His face went pale. Billy immediately noticed. Jack. Ashley leaned toward the document. Who did Dad name? Jack looked around the room and finally said, Traci. Everyone turned toward her. Traci looked completely stunned. Me? John had chosen Traci as the deciding voice if the Abbott siblings became deadlocked. His reasoning was written directly in the document. He described Traci as the child least driven by power, the one most likely to put family before ego and legacy before personal ambition. Traci began crying as Jack read John's words. Ashley covered her mouth. Even Billy seemed speechless. Jack looked at his sister with a mixture of surprise, humility, and affection. For decades, Jabot power struggles had usually centered on Jack, Ashley, and sometimes Billy, but John had entrusted the final safeguard to Traci. That revelation hit everyone differently. Kyle seemed disappointed because it reduced Jack's ability to simply restore his position. Ashley seemed almost relieved. Billy looked moved. Diane looked thoughtful, realizing that every major Jabot decision had suddenly become more complicated. Jack, however, was the most deeply affected. He slowly sat down and stared at his father's signature. The letter had not merely changed the legal situation. It had exposed something Jack did not want to admit. His father had anticipated the exact weakness that had followed the family for years. Every Abbott believed they were protecting Jabot, but sometimes they were really protecting their pride. Jack had been ready to make a decision that he believed was necessary, yet John had deliberately created a system preventing him from doing it alone. Kyle broke the silence. So what happens now? Everyone looked at Jack. He picked up the letter again, then turned toward Kyle. My decision changes. Kyle's face brightened slightly, but Jack raised a hand. Not the way you think. Jack explained that he would no longer move forward with his unilateral restructuring. He would respect John's agreement and bring every major ownership and leadership issue before the Abbott siblings. However, Kyle would not automatically regain the authority he wanted. Instead, his future at Jabot would be reviewed by the family as a whole. Billy would also receive a voice, but Jack warned him that this was not permission to turn Jabot into another battlefield connected to Chancellor. Ashley would regain stronger influence in strategic decisions, while Traci would hold the deciding vote if the siblings reached an impasse. Kyle looked frustrated. So Grandpa's letter gives Billy more power, but doesn't give me mine back? Jack answered calmly. This isn't about power. That is exactly the point we all seem to keep missing. Billy gave a small smile. I never thought I'd hear you say that. Jack turned toward him. Don't enjoy this too much. For the first time since the meeting began, a little tension broke, but it did not last long. The attorney then revealed one final item inside the file, a short handwritten note from John addressed to whoever was leading Jabot when the agreement was activated. Jack unfolded it slowly. The note read, "If you believe Jabot can only survive when you control it, then you have already forgotten why I built it." Jack stared at the words for a long time. No one spoke. Diane watched him carefully, aware that this was more personal than any boardroom defeat. Jack had spent his life trying to become the man he believed John wanted him to be. Now his father's words seemed to challenge the very way Jack understood leadership. Finally, Jack looked at his family. Dad was right. Ashley's expression softened. Billy looked surprised. Jack continued, I've spent so much time trying to stop this family from tearing Jabot apart that maybe I started believing the only way to protect it was to make sure I had the final word. That isn't what Dad wanted. Traci reached for his hand. Jack turned toward Kyle next. And maybe I've been so afraid of you making mistakes that I forgot Dad allowed all of us to make ours. Kyle became emotional, but Jack quickly added, that doesn't erase what happened. Trust still has to be rebuilt. Kyle nodded. For once, he did not argue. Billy then asked the question everyone had been avoiding. What about Chancellor? Jack sighed. That's your fight. But if you drag Jabot into it, you'll answer to all of us now. Ashley smiled, including Traci. Billy glanced at his sister. She may be the only person in this room I'm actually afraid to disappoint. Traci laughed through her tears. The meeting ended without a clear winner because John's letter had made winning irrelevant. Jabot would no longer be controlled entirely by Jack's personal judgment. Ashley and Billy would have stronger voices, Traci would hold unexpected authority, and Kyle would have to prove that he deserved a larger role rather than simply demanding one. But the most important change happened inside Jack. Later that evening, he returned alone to the Abbott mansion and placed John's letter on the desk. Diane found him staring at an old photograph of his father. You okay? She asked. Jack smiled sadly. I thought I knew exactly what Dad expected from me. Diane sat beside him. Maybe he expected you to keep learning. Jack looked again at the letter. He knew this would happen. He knew one day we'd all be fighting over what was best for Jabot. Diane nodded. And he trusted you to read the letter when you needed it most. Jack shook his head. No. He trusted all of us. That difference mattered.